Welcome to Strange Weekly News. In this show, we'll take a look into the news and headlines, pick out curious reports of the strange, the weird, and the mysterious. Anything from UFO news to science advancements, the paranormal, and stuff labeled fringe science and fringe phenomena. Each news item we go over in the show, I will place all the links to them in the description box below once this live show is over, as well as chapters on the timeline index. Hello and welcome to all of my first time viewers and everyone catching this live. Please show your support for my work by hitting that like button right down below and subscribing, as we do 3 live shows right here on this channel every single week, covering topics like UFOs, the paranormal, and things that are unexplained. The first thing we're going to be covering is the AARO report that was just released. I'm going to share a screenshot of the cover of this report, and before I tear it apart, let's start it off on a good note. And here's the good note. It was 63 pages. Okay, that's the longest report we've ever received so far. And it wasn't a fluffy paper in the sense of they said a lot of things without saying anything. There was some substance there. And it was a really interesting read, but my facial expressions said it all when I was reading it and will say it all going into more detail. Now that we have said the nice things, let's really get into this one. Because as soon as you look at the report, let me just read it to you. It says here, since 1945, the USG, which is the United States government, has funded and supported UAP investigations with the goal of determining whether UAP represented a flight safety risk, technological leaps of competitor nations, or evidence of off-world technology under intelligent control. These investigations were managed and implemented by a range of experts, scientists, academics, military, and intelligence officials under differing leaders, all of whom held their own perspectives that led them to particular conclusions on the origin of UAP. However, they all had in common the belief that UAP represented an unknown and therefore theoretically posed a potential threat to our nature. So that sounds nice. That sounds okay. It looks very serious, but we're not really given the names of these academics and military and scientists, minus the ones that we're decently familiar with. But then it continues. AARO recognizes that many people sincerely hold versions of these beliefs, which are based on their perception of past experiences, the experiences of others whom they trust, or media and online outlets they believe to be sources of credible and verifiable information. This includes television programs, books, movies, and the vast amount of internet and social media content centered on UAP related topics, most likely has influenced the public conversation on this topic and reinforced these beliefs within some sections of the population. Here's what that paragraph is saying in a really nice way. You're stupid for believing those people, and instead you should be believing what the government has to say. That's what it's saying right there. But I promise you, it only gets better. The goal of this report is not to prove or disprove any particular belief set, but rather to use a rigorous analytic and scientific approach to investigate past USG-sponsored UAP investigation efforts and the claims made by interviewees that the USG and various contractors have recovered and are hiding off-world technology and biological matter. So this here is referring to specifically David Grush. And a lot of this report is actually referring to what David Grush had mentioned during the whistleblower hearing July of last year. They're really honing in on that because David Grush made such an impact, and I'm emphasizing that, on people's minds, the media's minds, so much so that I'm going to say it, at the very least, the majority of this report was pointing the finger at Grush and saying everything that he said during that hearing was false. false, 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 lie, lie, lie. Don't believe him, believe me. Then it says, and this is the kicker. This is the cherry on top of this 63-page report. Well, one of two. AARO found no evidence that any USG investigation, academic sponsored research, or official review panel has confirmed that any sightings of a UAP represented extraterrestrial technology. All investigative efforts at all levels of classification, referring to classified and declassified reports, concluded that most sightings were ordinary objects and phenomena as the result of misidentification. Although not the focus of this report, and I'm telling you, you have to listen to this. It is worthwhile to note that all official foreign UAP investigation efforts to date have reached the same general conclusions as the USG investigations. We're going to highlight that again later, I promise you, because that is so, so important. First, you have the United States being a big brother, saying, you must follow what I say. Other countries have had their own UFO offices for decades. China, Uruguay, Chile, Brazil, Japan, Canada. Well, Canada is kind of more recent, but you see what I'm saying here. And those are the ones that we know about, that have been made public for a handful of decades. And then in this report that was released by the Pentagon is saying, look, all of these foreign UAP investigation efforts, offices, agencies, we're all saying, every single one of us, because we're a collective, we're saying it's not extraterrestrial technology. It's not anything bizarre. It must be something that was unidentified. And that small percentage to where we couldn't identify it, which we're going to cover those projects and groups. Oh, well, we don't really know what it is. We don't have the technology for it. We didn't then. We don't know now. We're not sure what it is. We thought it was a threat, but maybe it's not. Do you see the confusion here? And that's the big takeaway from this. Oh my gosh, but we're I have been steaming on this since I read this report because there's so much I want to say all in one go, but we have to layer it out like a layered wedding cake or something to really get an understanding of this report and why it's causing people such frustration, especially if you're new to this topic. You might think, well, yeah, duh. I mean, did you really expect anything coming out of this report? I totally get you 100%. I had the same feelings. But when you're reading this, they're throwing pie in your face, they're throwing pie in their own faces, and they're throwing it in the sky and on the floor. They're wasting pie everywhere. And it says here, aside from hoaxes, misinformation and disinformation is more prevalent and easier to fake now than ever before, especially with today's advanced photo, video, and computer generated imagery tools. Internet search and content recommendation algorithms serve to reinforce individuals' preconceptions and confirmation bias just as much as to help educate and inform them. So, what are they saying here? Don't believe the internet. Do not believe what you read, but instead believe what I have to say. I referring to the government here. I referring to the military, to the Pentagon. Everything else, it's there to take away your knowledge and just provide you ignorance. So here, what we can say is the internet is to blame. That's what it is because they cannot fully control it. Now, according to ABC News, because right now everyone's covering this, your mainstream media outlets, your non-mainstream media outlets, everyone's talking about this. And yes, there are different ideas, but what the majority of these outlets are stating, because I've read a good handful of them, we have ABC, we have MSNBC, News Nation, so on and so forth, they're all mentioning that in this report that was released by AARO this morning, okay, to the public at the very least, is stating that nope, They didn't find any extraterrestrial technology. There are no reverse engineering programs. There's nothing to see here. Everyone that we interviewed, it seems from our research that they were just misidentifying advanced technology. And that's it. And that's it. And we just got to take their word for it. Kirkpatrick had been alluding to this for some time now, at the very least since November when he had mentioned it. Let me find it. He had mentioned it over at Mirror, and then later on to Politico as well. But he referred to Mirror back in November of 2023, and he says that Kirkpatrick has been explaining his thoughts as he prepares to leave the agency to retire in December, and says he feels he has accomplished his mission. He said that there would be more information, educational material that will help inform the public. We've got a package of a lot of new material, and we've got ready to release. We've uncovered some things that we are having be declassified, not just operational videos, but historical documents. So, what is he referring to here if you haven't read the report? He is referring to a handful of projects. So we're familiar with Project Blue Book, we're familiar with Sign and Grudge, but there's a few more. There's Project Bear, and there's Project Saucer, there's Project Kona Blue, and they also give you a timeline on this 65-page report. So we have Project Saucer in 1946. It goes all the way down to OSAP, which is the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program, down to ATIP, which is the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, going into the UAPTF, which is the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, created in 2021, the AOI MSG, AARO, that was created in 2022. And reason to why I'm mentioning these dates is because when we're looking at the very first project mentioned, being Project Saucer in 1946, all the way to 2000 and let's say 2023, because that's probably when this was written. It was just recently released to the public after being revised 1,000 times. What's really interesting about this report is that you have the project, what they were looking at, and the results. And every single one of those results for those projects that was written up by Kirkpatrick and maybe a few others are saying, no, we didn't find anything. No, there wasn't really any evidence of extraterrestrials or some kind of bizarre advanced technology. So then why did you make so many projects from 1946 to 2022? Every year, every few years, you're making a new project just for you to test your own pudding and say, look, the first project failed, we didn't find anything. The second project failed, we didn't find UFOs or ET or aliens or anything like that. And you kept doing that 10, 12, 15 projects in a row. I don't believe that. You would only create that many projects if you knew, if you felt, if you saw something was there. And you're telling me, no, we didn't find anything. Then why aren't you wasting my time? Why are they wasting your tax dollars if there was nothing to it? Do you see the flaw there? Is there any logic behind that? And yet, they want the whole United States, the whole world to believe, stating, no, there's nothing. No, nothing at all. Nothing to see here. All of these projects, you know what? We were just bored. We're just having a little bit of fun, a little bit of a laugh because we had nothing else better to do other than to look at some strange UFO sightings, but they weren't really alien. They were ours. Since 1946 till 2022. That's a lot of money that you're spending. And like I'm telling you, you can probably see it on my face, you can hear it in my voice. I'm just fuming because it doesn't make sense. And you know what? I'm tired. I'm tired of their BS. And I know for a diddly darn fact you are as well. Let me ask you this. Now that this report has been released, people are covering it, people are talking about it. How many people believe it? Serious question. I want to know. And Anderson, thank you so much for that. And if you're enjoying the show, hit that like button right down below as well. And I also want to hear your feedback. I really, truly want to understand your emotions when you were reading this report that was released this morning. What was going through your mind? Even though it says here March 6th, we, the public, did not get it March 6th. By the way, if you were wondering, we got it today, March 8th. And, oh, I got to really bring this up. This is so important. This is the first report that we've gotten that talks about, and here's the title: Report of the Historical Record of U.S. Government Involvement with UAP, Volume 1. We are promised, based off of this report, that we will get a volume 2. This is interesting. It's not following the norm. It's not following the pattern like these other reports that we got that were 2 pages, 7 pages, 11 pages, and it was a waste of your time. The wording was use as much as you can to say nothing and to give you nothing except for balloon like entities. That's the only thing we took from the last report or so. This one, you have a lot to chew on. You really do. Like, I have to give them give them brownie points for that. I do. But it's still BS. I'm gonna say it. Actually, all over my notes for this particular report, I'm using profanity everywhere. I'm like, you can just fill in the gap there. And then now I'm a little less, a little less fumey, but still just almost just as much, but enough to be careful what I say here because it's unbelievable. So then here you've had a handful of people comment on this. One of them being Lou Elizondo, that had just has made comments to news outlets, has also published on Twitter, aka X now, really talking about the disappointment in this. And I'm going to read you one of them, which says here that the government, according to Elizondo, government has documentation, stacks upon stacks of UAP going back decades, interfering with our critical military technologies. You know what's a really good example? A fantastic example that is so well known: the Malmstrom Air Force Base incident in the 60s, the Vandenberg Air Force Base incident in the 70s, where missiles or even test dummy missiles were being shot up, and then a UFO is coming by, shooting a laser at it, and not letting them continue with whatever they're supposed to do, these missiles, right? Do you How would you casually explain that? No, it's just our technology. No, you know what? It's actually just foreign adversary messing with us. Do you see this facial expression right here on my face? Do you think the majority of people are that dumb? And more than that, this paper, while they're trying to be super sensitive and selective with their words, not trying to offend anyone, they did. They offended every single person that has had a sighting. You know what? We can even bring in military pilots. Those that have come forward, and I've mentioned, I've seen some strange stuff. David Fravor, Ryan Graves, so on and so forth. I'm mentioning those because they are the most famous right now, that the majority of people are familiar with. These are trained military pilots. These are people that are trained to distinguish between an weather anomalies, weather balloons, some of your advanced technology, not all of it, because you do need to have a clearance, and I get that. But even then, you're able to decently gauge. Are you calling them stupid? Are you saying that we shouldn't trust our lives and place it in their hands because they can't distinguish a weather balloon from a UFO? Something that simply cannot be explained, like a tic tac, or Ryan Graves had mentioned before, a sphere within a bubble? Can you think of some technology that we might have that could create something like that? I'm floored. In so many ways, I'm lost for words. Now, according to Politico back in February of 2024, which was what, a month ago? Let me just pull up this image just as a visual aid. Here is Kirkpatrick. He says here, Kirkpatrick said the Pentagon is reluctant to engage on the subject because it's concerned about getting caught up in the web of conspiracy theories that has long existed surrounding the issue of UFOs. He argued that staying silent just exacerbates the problem, which is true. And it continues here with a quote from Kirkpatrick. If there is a void in the information space, it will be filled with the imagination of the public and the conspiracies of these accusations. Yeah, well, this report that you're giving out, it's worse. It is worse than this. And I gotta make this back into a 360 because he's saying the Pentagon needs to be more forceful in explaining and defending AARO and its missions. And then you get this report. You get this report today. And the craziest thing from this, like just off the first few pages, at the very least, if you just read the first few pages, you'll get the gist of the majority of the report. Now, I do, of course, wish for you to read the entire report, and that link will be in the description box below for you. But here's just one thing that I said earlier, and I'm going to say it again because it's appalling. And that is, it is worthwhile to note that all official foreign UAP investigation efforts to date have reached the same general conclusions as the United States government investigations. So this is not this is saying a lot without saying anything, and it's adding this level of confusion because first you're saying it's a threat, it must be for an adversary, but then you're saying that the majority of these countries, many of them are first world countries that have UFO offices or UFO agencies or have had a project in some point in time, are all looking at this and they're saying, no, it's not me. Is it you? No, it's not you. Is it me? No, it's not me. Is it you? All right, then it can't be for an adversary if it's not you or me. Do you see? Do you see the dilemma? It does not make sense. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's totally okay. That's why we're having these conversations live, because I want to know what's going through your mind. Okay? Because it just and we cannot let this next piece of information to rest. Never ever. Okay? Promise me. I'm asking you, I've never asked you for a promise in my life. I'm asking you for one right now. I'm using all of my credit for this one promise that I'm asking you to give me. Never let this rest. That Sean Kirkpatrick co-wrote a paper with Avi Loeb that was published in the Center for Astrophysics, Harvard, and the Smithsonian, talking about motherships providing dandelion seed type probes that could be exploring our solar system, that could be exploring planet Earth, at least hypothetically. But even then, he put his name on that. Just even thinking about the possibility. But then he's telling the world when he was sitting on the throne at AARO, stating, no, not alien, not ET, nothing to see here. Everything has a conventional explanation. Then why allow your imagination to wander publicly on that paper that was published March 7th, 2023? Do not let that argument die. I am asking you so nicely because it contradicts everything that he's ever said, what AARO has ever said, because he represented AARO and he's still doing that, even though he's left office. And right now it's being filled in by Tim Phillips, I believe. He's still the face of AARO. Still, he was better than Moultrie and Bray for the AOI MSG. People already forgot about them. No one remembers them. Their presentation was horrid. Okay. Their paper that was provided to the public, their preliminary report was dreadful. Kirkpatrick has made a name for himself. He has imprinted history when it comes to UFOs. And I'm not saying that lightly. Now, I don't agree with a lot of the things that he says, but people won't forget him anytime soon, unlike Moultrie and Bray. Unlike the UAPTF, I didn't even have a face. See what I'm saying here? Something is being done, and the question is what? Is this all some kind of psyop? All some kind of just odd manipulation just to get people confused because of the war tactic of divide and conquer? How many people are actually going to read this report? It's 60 pages. Yes, it will take some time out of your day, but then you can fight someone about it and say, prove me wrong. But on a serious note, having these conversations are so important because at the very least, we are able to question, we are able to be curious, but more importantly, we have to be skeptical on the things that we believe. Even if it comes from a book or a documentary or from someone's mouth that you place in high regard, question them. It's okay, it's normal, it's healthy, and it needs to be done. But to say, oh, I definitely believe this one person because he has all these credentials, or she, right? Great. That's cool. But people that shoot down questions and say, oh, don't question me. Ooh, you better be asking bigger, badder, fatter questions than ever before. Because those people, the ones that you need to look out for. Gary, thank you for that. It says, didn't say anything about nukes we have in space. Not that I saw. And JJL, thank you for that as well. So let me get your input on this because I know we have a lot of comments and I really wanted to get that off my chest first before we talk about a few other things still in the lines of this report. John says, as an experiencer, I will never let this go. Oh, Mark brings in something interesting. Kirkpatrick stated that was published without his consent. Where did he mention that? Was that like in a tweet or on some kind of personal social like LinkedIn? Let me know because that is interesting. All Work says either he's lying or Grush is lying. It's hard to say in this topic because, as mentioned in the report, there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation all throughout. It's embedded everywhere that you don't know where to look, you don't know where to turn, you don't know who to ask questions to. I get that. I do. I'm in that predicament with you as we speak. You and me, we're on the same boat together. But we have to look at all the information and at the very, very least make up our own minds. But let me tell you this, and this I believe without a doubt. At the end of the day, disclosure, transparency will not be coming from the government ever. It will be coming from the people or maybe extraterrestrials, interdimensionals. That part we'll see when it happens. But for the time being, it's because we are having this conversation. It's because we are pushing for transparency. The government is even providing these reports. The government is even talking about this publicly. It's because we are pushing for it. And we're not taking no for an answer like we used to a few decades ago. And even then, there was a push. But now, with the internet, we're able to get this information out further and wider and faster than ever before. That could be one reason of so many as to why the ball has been rolling faster than previously, or has it always been a drip feed since let's say since the 70s onward, because at some point you can't keep the lid on a boiling pot much longer. Wouldn't you rather control it slowly than have it explode everywhere like a volcano? There's a lot of theories on this onto why we're getting the ball rolling now. And I don't have the answer to that. I wish I did. But there's a handful of possibilities, and maybe they're all working together on this or completely separate. Tyler says, "Don't let this conversation die." I'm telling you, don't do it. I've only ever asked you for one promise, and it's don't let this die, but do not let the article written by Kirkpatrick and Loeb ever die. Never, ever. So let's see. For those that read this report, what did you think about it? Let me know. Let me know. And while you do that, Wayne says, JJL, you rock. And I saw what you did there. 5 sightings, $5. Here's $1 for each of your sighted craft. Rock on, Wayne. And Mickey says, Cristina, how do we know whose info we can trust or not trust? This is a great question. Example, Charles Hall was stationed at Area 53 and 54, known as Dreamland, had interactions with the tall whites. Is incredible or not? Mickey, look, I'm with you. Who do we believe and who can we not believe? You can't trust anyone. That's I know it's awful, it's cliche, but it's true. You have to just be in it. You have to feel it out for yourself. And or you might have your own experience, your own encounter, and then that in itself, nothing can sway that. But when we're looking at this, some people, you're always going to have two camps. And I'm going to use Lazar as an example, okay? Just as an example. You have half of the people in the UFO world that undoubtedly believe Lazar based off of his credentials and how he's handled the situation. You have another half that do not believe a word that comes out of that man's mouth because of his credentials that don't fully match, because of the way that he's handled his interviews and whatnot, right? People's perception, people's interpretation is always going to shift the way that they see things, even if everything is laid out to them right in front of them, all the data, all the research, the truth, even. People will still say, no, it's not true. And why? You might ask yourself, why is it not true? Because I say so. Because I say so and I don't believe it because my emotions and my feeling and my perception says this. So you really got to feel it out for yourself. And I know it's a crappy answer, but it's the best one I can give out right now. And some might agree, some might absolutely disagree with me, and that's okay. That's why we have these conversations, don't you think? Marty says, I didn't read the report, only saw summaries from others. Summaries, yeah, they're okay. It's a good start, but that link will be in the description box below for those that do want to read that report in full. No Filter says, zero trust. Damn right. Hey, man. You just got to be careful. At the very least, be careful who you trust. You can't handle the truth, says Jamie. I mean, I put the truth back there, but you know, we can guess what he said. Let's see. Matrix says, I predict Bob Lazar will testify in front of Congress later this year. Ooh, that'll be interesting. Well, let's end on this note when it comes to the report at the very least, because we still have a lot of articles to cover, a very limited amount of time. So, here's another image of this. And we have Tim Burchett. And he posted on Twitter, and it says, referring to the report, so the people doing the cover up of hashtag UFO, hashtag UAP say they find no cover up. Classic self-fulfilled prophecy. This is hilarious. This is so funny because here's an example that could have happened. Kirkpatrick could have walked over to any agency, any old project, and the people that were a part of that project, maybe even a contractor, and say, hey, do you have alien tech in your garage by chance? Did you ever have any kind of interaction with said craft by chance? And then that person would say, no. Kirkpatrick looks down his notebook, crosses it out, and says, thank you so much. I believe you. And then walks away. First of all, that's not how investigations work. Okay? No. You gotta go under interrogation. See if they're lying. But here, I think Burchett just puts the last nail in the coffin with this one. I think it's hilarious. Of those that are doing the covering up are saying that there's no cover up. It only makes sense. It's only logical, right? Because imagine, just for a moment, Just imagine that this report had everything. It said, yep, we have reverse engineering programs. Yes, we have alien technology. Yes, we know people that have had interactions with extraterrestrials under military surveillance. We have private contractors that have dug up some really crazy stuff. People don't think that far through, because if that were all to come out, it would be honestly a Pandora's box, not just a can of worms, not just putting toothpaste back in the tube, like all these crazy metaphors. It would literally be a Pandora's box, because that means you will be questioning everything that the government has ever told you in your life in the past since it was created back in 1776. Okay? That would be detrimental. That would not only create a crack in the foundation, it would create a black hole in the foundation, and there would be massive chaos. Now, I'm not saying chaos because it's infringing on people's religion, because people that don't believe in UFOs will go crazy and aliens will go crazy. It's not that. It's not. And that's kind of more superficial. If this were all to come out, it would make everyone question everything, not just religion, not just science, but even their day to day life. Do you see what I'm going here? Now, some might say, Christina, girl, you're exaggerating. Do you wanna test that theory? The answer is yes. The answer is yes, because we all want that transparency and that disclosure. But I can tell you it would be crazy. At least from what I know now about this topic and basic psychology. Basic psychology, okay? I think it would go interesting. I don't wanna say bad, I don't wanna say good, but it would be a shift. It would be a paradigm shift in people's minds and in their day-to-day life. But if you think I'm wrong, let me know why. Tell me why, that's okay. That's why we talk about this stuff. Moon at Noon says the second lie, history. Paul says, I already questioned that. It's a serious question. Taryn says, people will be more mad about being lied to. Yes, absolutely. No one likes to be lied to. No one likes to be taken advantage of. People don't like that. And there will be some uprisings if that were to take place. Cam says, I'm looking forward to the shift. Ooh, it'll be interesting at the very, very least. So I'm going to let you stew on that, and I just would like to reiterate that the link will be in the description box below for you to read in greater detail. But let's get on into our next article. Still talking about UFOs, because I think we all have to kind of just calm down a little bit. I'm feeling very warm, like I have a fever. My ears are burning. They feel red and very hot from just the anger and fuming that I have deep inside of me. So let's change it up a little bit. Talking about Norway. And this is pretty cool. I didn't know about this, but apparently Norway had a very strange UFO sighting in 1947. Does that year ring a bell? It's one of the most famous cases, aka Roswell. But I love that on this channel, we don't just talk about Roswell, we talk about every other case. Like for Thursday's show, we covered all of the more older cases that predated 1903. If you're interested in that, go take a look at that video. It was a lot of fun looking as far back as the First Punic War, and then even going to Ireland in the 700s as well, and then making our way up. But here, in the town of Rojos in Norway, witnessed a mysterious egg-shaped object coming down from the sky and descended into a nearby lake known as Sjusjøen. If you've ever read Norwegian, and if you're not Norwegian, okay, let me just emphasize that. Their letters, to me, it's like all these consonants and no vowels, and it's very bizarre. I really had to use like, hey, how do you pronounce this? But it's super easy. Sjusjøen, awesome. So in this story, It was told for generations after that, but mainly by the locals, because this is a story that you're not really going to find as popular in other parts of the world like it was in Norway back in 1947. Because you think of that year, you think of Roswell, right? Well, so what happened here is that with this story constantly making its rounds across the country, people have done investigations in that lake in Shushan, the Lake Shushan. And they said there's something really bizarre here because according to sonar imaging, these researchers, mainly UFO researchers, were like investigating what was under there and they came across this really unknown, bizarre looking object. And it sounds kind of like the Baltic Sea anomaly, where you have the Millennium Falcon shaped object. But this is in a lake, not on the ocean. So this anomalous object, whatever it might be, measures 14 meters long and 3 meters wide, at least according to the sonar imaging. So recently, and I'm talking about like very, very recently, this Norwegian UFO Center is going to dive in there and do investigations, and there's going to be creating a documentary on this. The name has not been released. I don't know what it is. When I know, you'll know. But until then, they're documenting everything. Can I just mention something? I love this idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. I think it's a lot of fun and it'll make a great documentary. But if it took place in 1947, people have already gotten to it, probably. And maybe that sonar imaging could be something else. Who knows? That's the part that I'm a bit hesitant on. Don't really know how to comment on that. But let's say it really was a UFO that fell in there, right? Or dropped in there for whatever reason. It won't be there. It will not be there now. Or the scuba divers cannot reach it for whatever reason. You see what I'm saying here? It's like every single TV show that you'll ever watch on the mysterious. Bigfoot, UFOs, the paranormal. Actually, the paranormal a little bit less because they got a little better. But these other ones, these cryptid TV shows, right? You are always left hanging. There is never any kind of resolve. There's never a resolution. Why? Because if they found something bizarre in these movies, in these TV shows, it would never be released. It would never be dropped. We would never know about it. It would have been confiscated so quickly. So, like when I watch these shows, I watch them more, if for anything, for entertainment. But if I watch it for a resolve, oh, I'm always left like pulling out my hair, like just why can't I ever get an answer? Because we won't. Not anytime soon at the very least. And you might agree, you might disagree, and that's okay. But let me know. Let me know in the comments and the live chat your all-time favorite paranormal, cryptid, UFO TV show and or like documentary movie. Not like a movie, but you know, those ones that people are really doing actual research. Let me know. I'll tell you mine. It's a guilty pleasure of mine that I like to watch sometimes, and that is Ghost Adventures. It's fun. It's fun for me. So there you go. I'll start it off for you. So let's hear yours before we get on to our next one, because I mean this is a cool article. It's a cool story, and hopefully they find something interesting. Moon says the legend of Bobby Creek. Rock on. That's cool. Tyler says Secret of Skinwalker Ranch all the way. Nice. John, bringing in the facts here. Boots on the ground investigations is the best way to find the truth. Damn straight. That is correct. And when I get my RV and be able to travel the United States, I'll be able to investigate and do boots on the ground investigations on all the paranormal and UFO hotspots, taking you on the journey with me because it's the most important and it is the best way to find the truth. Mark Tasaka, thank you so much for that. Thank you. Tasaka, as Hyde says. Oh, Marty says The Phenomenon by James Fox. It will go down as a classic. It will. That's a pretty bomb documentary. Boots on the ground, says Rome. Yes, definitely. Chris says, when I was a kid, I used to love watching Arthur C. Clarke about the strange things around the globe. Oh, yeah. Oh, Terrence, the three-body problem? Yes! Yes! So good. Loved it when I watched it. Hides, boots on the ground. Heck yeah. Thank you for that, Hides. Thank you. All right, I got another article for you, and this one's referring to the James Webb Space Telescope. It's just a nice visual aid. You know what's crazy? It launched 2 years ago, and I remember, probably just like many of you, watching the launch happen. Like sitting at the edge of my seat, ready for the moment, ready for it to explore the universe like never before, compared to any other telescope, being one of the best ones, right? Costed $10 billion to make, took what, 15 years to create. And then when it launched, oh my goodness, it was breathtaking. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. So, talking about the James Webb Space Telescope, it has a new mission. Now, when I'm saying new mission, it was already talked about before it was ready to launch, but now it's going to take place starting in July of 2024 on the way till June of 2025. And it is called Cycle 3 of the JWST operation. And the JWST stands for the James Webb Space Telescope, but we're just going to call it Webb because that is a mouthful, both the acronym and the actual name. You feel me? So follow along when we call it the Webb, because it will allocate over 5,500 hours of observation time across 253 general observer programs, also known as GO programs. So the Webb, which I had mentioned, was $10 billion to make, is set to expand our understanding of the cosmos by examining a diverse array of celestial phenomena. Here's one of the biggest takeaways about the Webb, if you weren't already aware, is that it found so far that how old we thought the universe was is wrong. So we thought it was about, what, 14 billion years old? Double it. The Webb telescope says that number, double that bad boy. So we're looking at like 28 not million, billion-year-old universe that we know of so far. Now that number could change with new technology, but let me just emphasize this because this is important. Now that we have that new number, that in itself is beneficial to the argument of there being other very intelligent life in our universe, because that's double the amount of time for intelligent life to be able to grow and prosper versus 14 billion's like kind of pushing it. 24, 28, nice, we're getting somewhere, and that's pretty good stuff. Now, is it older than that? Some will say yes, but we don't have the hard, cold data just yet. That's my fun little fact about the JWST that we didn't know about. This is the crazy part until last year. That is brand new information. Brand new. So what it's looking at now with its new project being Cycle 3 is that it's going to be looking at exoplanets, which, not exoplanets, exomoons, which are moons that are orbiting exoplanets. And so it's going to look at the atmospheric compositions of exoplanets and exomoons, the mysterious surrounding supermassive black holes and galaxies that exist at the universe's dawn as well, which is very cool. Furthermore, the Webb aims to study cosmic large-scale structures to uncover details about the universe's accelerated expansion and the nature, this is crazy, of dark energy. We've known about dark energy, honestly, not for that long. Decade, 2 decades, if we're lucky. We found the first exoplanet in the 90s. In the 90s, which was honestly at arm's length. That's pretty close. Dark energy and dark matter has been more recent. So the Webb is trying to find the nature of that. What is going on here? Now, you have some crazy theories when it comes to dark energy that I could gobble up all day. It's really cool. Here's one of them that's kind of sticking its ground more so than a few others. But you have one. You know what? Actually, let's back it up. Let me provide you an example for my science minded people out there. I see you. I hear you. Let's start off there. The atom that makes everything. all matter, is 99.9% space, nothing, emptiness. First of all, how does that even make sense? Okay, serious question. No one really knows. Nobody knows at all. So when we look at dark energy, it's almost like that empty space of an atom. It still takes up space, but we just can't really see it. And yet it has a purpose of some kind. Let's start off there. Okay. Number two is maybe, just maybe, looking at dark energy and dark matter because they're two separate things, but they do work hand in hand and people get them confused, like myself, because I'm not an astronomer or a complete science nerd, but I do love me some space science. And that is maybe, just maybe, it could potentially be like a parallel universe filling up with that extra space because now we're getting a better understanding of parallel universes. Science is looking more into that. We got quantum entanglement, we got quantum physics. Let's look at that a little bit more. Could that be a possibility for dark energy and dark matter? Just maybe. You know what? That one is food for thought. Enjoy that one. I thought that was little fun little tidbit. Now, going back to Mr. Webb over here and the James Webb Space Telescope, it's got this pretty ambitious agenda, which includes hunting for exomoons, which is a field that has long intrigued astronomers. They're like, we know how important our moon is for planet Earth with the tidal waves and everything in between. We need it. Let's look at other planets and let's look at their moons to see what's going on and how it affects them as well. So these moons exist obviously outside of our solar system and are challenging to detect due to their small size and the faint light that they block when they transit in front of their host star. That's how exoplanets have been found since the 90s, and same with those moons as well. So you have the Columbia University's assistant professor of astronomy, David Kipping, and his team have secured observation time to focus on the Kepler 167e, which is a giant gas planet pretty similar to Jupiter, which is located about 1,115 light years away. That's pretty cool. So, by utilizing the Webb near infrared imager and slitless spectrograph known as the NIRIS, they aim to achieve the first undisputed detection of an exomoon. So, it's never been found before, and they want to be the first ones. Pretty exciting. Why is this exciting? Number one, who doesn't love being a pioneer? Who doesn't love being an explorer? Do you remember when you were a kid and you used to just walk outside of your home just a little bit and go play in the woods, go play at the park? You find a stick and you become an explorer. You were the next Christopher Columbus. I'm just using him because he's the most well-known explorer, right? You have this ambition to go into places that you've never been to before. Yes, it can be a little scary, but the curiosity eats you up more than the fear most of the time. Well, now you can do it from the comfort of your own home or from a lab at the very least. You're not really going out there, but you're still able to explore and feel and act upon your curiosity. And then with that information of exoplanets, of exomoons, we have to talk about, and there's no going around it, there's none, talking about extraterrestrial life. Yes, your basic scientists and astronomers will say, oh, microbial life, wow, super cool, oh my gosh, tardigrades, love them. Yeah, cool, great, it's a great start, but we all want to know what's really out there. Are there other beings that look like humans, for instance? Because we're able to engage with them and imagine that a little bit better than maybe something that comes out of the movie Alien that looks very creepy and reptilian with this scary exoskeleton, which, by the way, humans need because we are so flippin' fragile. Get a paper cut and you bleed. What the heck? So it's easier to imagine an intelligent species like human looking versus other, but you simply cannot explore space without having that at the back of your mind. And that's where you and I come in with our knowledge of UFO sightings, UFO encounters, maybe extraterrestrial encounters as well. Because at some point, these astronomers, these scientists, these space explorers are going to need a history lesson. They're going to need a textbook. And we say, hey, I got you. You and me, baby. Let's do this. I will teach you the ropes. So we're pretty important in society if you think about it. Just Just putting that out there. That is actually all the time that we have for our articles today. I have a few more, but we're cutting it too close for today's show. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button right down below. Let me know out of all of them which one was your favorite article. Of course, aside from talking about the AARO report, because I know that one was your favorite, especially getting a bit of a better rundown than the summaries that you might find online that are kind of superficial, that are kind of boring. Which, by the way, if you don't always have time to watch these shows in full, or if you're more of a visual learner in the sense of having words right in front of you, I do write articles for all of the shows that you find right here on this channel, starting from 2024. And you can find them on my website at strangeparadigms.com, or you can also scan this QR code and it will take you to all of my social media links. By the way, you can also find the articles on Medium. If you just type in, at Cristina G, you'll find it there as well. But here you can catch my socials like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everything else in between. But if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, follow me on Twitter at eyes_on the skies, on Instagram at Strange Paradigms. And if you want to continue the conversation, bring it over to the Discord server with 3,000 other like minded people. Excuse me. Share your thoughts, your insights, your experiences, and more. Oh, and before you head out, if you need help relaxing this weekend or meditating or maybe focusing, maybe even using your imagination to wander the universe, check out my music channel called Cosmic Portals. And I have such sick news, really sick news. Very, very soon, you'll be able to find that music on all platforms. I even made an album. I'm just meant to be a surprise, but I kind of let the cat out of the bag there, so don't tell anyone, okay? But Cosmic Portals, space ambient music that I make to help you relax, sleep better. If you have insomnia, this will be your best friend. Lastly, if you want to see behind the scenes, the chaos, the things that go in my mind, and by the way, I'm just saying this, I'm a mom now. I'm a plant mom. I got chives growing. I got leeks growing. You better believe it. You can find all that and even get free merch on my Patreon, and you can just start out for free. Take a look at it. Scan this QR code. It will take you right there because you know what? I've never been so proud in my life to see the chive grow at the speed that it has. And you want to see it. You want to see the reality of Mr. Chive in my kitchen. But that is it for today. I will see you next time. Be safe and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.